Welcome back. What are the steps involved in getting your mortgage? Well, in the UK, New Zealand and Australia, there's usually an upfront application fee charged by the lender. It's generally non-refundable and covers the lender's costs on a loan application, regardless of whether or not you end up with a mortgage. If you're granted a mortgage, this fee is often applied to your closing costs. In the US, there are fees that are paid to the lender, which are all added to the loan once you receive your mortgage. It's always worth negotiating with the lender about these costs. Having a broker can be worth its weight in gold, as I was often able to negotiate with the banks to waive these fees for my clients. On one occasion, the bank had been extremely slow in responding to my phone calls and emails. And I complained about this, and not only did they waive their application fee for my client, they paid her legal fees as well. Lenders can and often do hold up an application for weeks, if not months. I knew of a mortgage broker who wanted to refinance her house. She put her application in and she told them it was very urgent. They assured her they would process it quickly for her. Months went by. Then out of the blue, she got a telephone call from the bank giving her just 24 hours to round up a whole load of extraneous information they needed. She'd given them all these months, but they'd only given her 24 hours, otherwise they said she wouldn't get the loan. She had to take the very next day off work to get the information they should have asked for right at the outset. Now, this lady was very familiar with the way lenders operate, and even she had difficulties. So remember, you do need to keep on chasing them up in person if you can, to make sure they have all the information they need and that they're acting in a timely manner. The next step is that the lender will usually carry out a credit check on you. So it's best to check your credit report before you apply. When you fill out the mortgage application form, check with your lender before they carry out a credit check on you to see if your application is likely to be successful. Otherwise, if lenders check your credit report several times within a short space of time, this can create a black mark on your credit. Indeed, this happened to me personally when I was just starting out. Several lenders carried out credit checks on me, and I had excellent credit, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't being offered a loan. It was only after checking out my status with the credit card companies that I was informed that there'd been lots of credit checks in the last month, and they were concerned that I was taking out too many loans and might be unable to repay them. This took several weeks to sort out, and in the meantime I missed out on several great deals. But finally my credit was cleared and I was able to obtain mortgages. If you do not have a good credit history, it's going to be much harder in this economy now to get a mortgage than it was in the days when everybody and his dog could get a mortgage. In the US, banks were giving mortgages to people who were really not creditworthy. They went in with 0 or 5% down. And in the UK, people were getting mortgages if they said they were trading, which in the UK means that they were self-employed. So when we look at the banking systems in the US and the UK, is it any wonder that the banks are failing in these countries and by a domino effect around the world? So things have tightened up and you can expect the banks to be much more stringent with their requirements. If you do have poor credit, chances are that you'll pay at least 2% over the average interest rate. And these are just examples from various countries. But anyone who's seriously interested in getting a mortgage in their country must check out with their mortgage lenders what their particular lending criteria are. If you already have a mortgage, make sure that you check each month that the bank is taking the correct amount from your bank account, especially if you're on a variable rate and the general interest rates have dropped. Make sure that you know what the new amount is and check up on the bank. I cannot tell you the amount of times that banks have overcharged their customers, and it's up to you to keep an eye on them. So some tips for shopping around. If you're using a broker, make sure you ask what fees you'll have to pay. Even if they charge you a fee, it might be worth your while paying their fee, as they often have connections with various banks and can often negotiate a much better deal than you'd be able to obtain for yourself. I was often able to push through a loan that might otherwise have been declined by talking to the lender and the valuer and showing them the things that they might have not picked up on. So to summarise, get quotes from lots of different lenders and try to negotiate their fees. Different brokers may have different policies, so it's best to shop around for somebody you feel comfortable with. Check all your paperwork and ensure you're not being overcharged. And in this climate, think seriously about fixing your rate, especially if interest rates are low in your country. Don't overstretch yourself, as the market is so volatile. This is not the time to take out too much debt. I had an email from last week from Alison. The market seems to be picking up here in New Zealand. I have an investment property I bought just over a year ago, and I have an 80% mortgage on it. I just had it valued and the real estate agent says that I can get my money back out of the property without losing anything. Would you advise selling it? Well, thank you for your question. If you're able to get your money back and free yourself of an 80% mortgage, then I think you'd be wise to consider this very seriously. House prices are likely to fall more yet, as more people lose their jobs and cannot afford to pay their mortgages. So there may be some real bargains out there, and if you've got cash, you'll be in a very strong position to pick up a deal. Next week, we'll look at the importance of using both logic and intuition in selecting a property. See you next week.